Jay here for Stretford, Paddock. That is Abdullah, and we are asking a big question. And it's a question that may have got scoffed at a few months ago, but it's one worth asking now. And that is, has Fred become Manchester United's best midfielder? Now, before you all click off this video,
best player.
I'm the Brazil's best player. I go, no, he hasn't. Abdullah is about to make the case of why he may just be our best midfielder at the minute. Abdullah, why is that? Why are you even making such a controversial opinion?
The thing is, if we look at it since, say, Ollie's sort of, moved on, and we look from the Carrick game, that Arsenal game, he's been impressive, and I think he's probably been our most consistent midfielder. Not that it's a hard thing to do. If we look at his performances from an attacking sense, I've just looked at it now, and he's got the most assists in the Premier League since the Arsenal performance for Man United. So amongst the team, that's ahead of Bruno, ahead of Sancho, ahead of our creative players in there. He's got 4 assists, and it's showing that his influence in the final third in terms of even just recovering the ball, and we see his flick the other day to Ronaldo, that he has got that influence in the final third. And to be fair to him, he's stepped up, as much as he's got a lot of grief. I've given him a lot, but he's such a different player when he plays higher up the pitch. I feel like when he's playing from deep, trying to dictate play, trying to collect the ball from the centre halves, it's not really his ball game, is it? The higher up he is, where he could just retrieve the ball, put himself about. And in that loss against Atletico Madrid, I thought we've seen a good performance. So we're going to look at his map here. He created 3 chances against Tottenham from open play. And that's what's so impressive. He's not really taking corners, not really taking set pieces. You can see his assist there on the map, just that flick over, even though it's just a short pass. It's a very important one. I think in that move, we watched Delot sort of pull Son into that area, which is another sort of part I want to speak about. I think Delot helps the likes of Fred, or whether it's Pogba or Bruno, in those areas, because I feel like him pinning down the winger, or playing higher up than Wan-Bissaka's and so on, I think he gives that opportunity there for Fred to have that quick flick onto Ronaldo. So that's just an observation of our general play there in terms of Fred and Delot. And I think in that game, we saw him, so involved in his passing, mainly in the final third. And that's where you want Fred on, where he can do that quick shot, dribble. We've seen that in the Atletico Madrid game. He can get himself out of trouble in those areas, can take a higher risk. Whereas when it's from deep, I feel there's a lot more pressure with Fred. I don't think he's got that pass that breaks through the middle of the pitch. I think he's someone, again, just like a Sancho in a way, where you want someone within close proximity of him. We want someone to give and go with him when he's beating a man. He can find a pocket. And I thought he did very well in the Arsenal game that we spoke about earlier, which sort of kick-started this form, where I think Jadon Sancho found him to win the penalty in the second half, and in the first half found him in a similar way, where then he assists Bruno Fernandes. So I think Fred can give a lot to this team, and you know what, he's made me eat my words as well, so fair play to him, because I didn't think, even though I thought his role higher up could be so influential and he would look a better player under Ralph, and I thought Ralph would enjoy that type of player, I didn't think he'd have this much of an influence in the team. And I think since the turn of the year, him and Sancho probably been our better players, our most consistent players, you can say. One of the things I want to look at is his passing in that Tottenham game. And that sort of shows, I think usually with Fred, when he's playing deeper, you see a lot more misplaced passes in this game. He completed, 39 of his 45 passes. Very impressive for a player, who managed to get assists and create 3 chances in that game and take risks in the game. So, again, that's something that's impressed me a lot with Fred. And you know what? We see a lot of this. We see a lot of this for Brazil as well. He's got that license when he's alongside a holding midfielder, like we've seen with Matic in recent games, or you see it for Brazil with Casemiro, when he's got the license to aggressively push his man and press out and be active. I think he's very much that modern player where he can turn the ball over. Kante, in a way, he's one of those players that you look at that does that, but he does it a bit more from deep. And I think to be part of the elites, I think in a side you need those players that are willing to be proactive and willing to win the ball, and then retrieve it and go from there. And I think Fred, for the next manager, it wouldn't surprise me in this team because of what he's offered so far in some of the big games recently for Man United, from the Arsenal game, to the Spurs game, Atletico when we lost. To be fair to him, in that role, he looked like one of our better players, and it won't surprise me if he stays in the team. And it's not even like his defensive work has gone unnoticed either. Like, he's still done his thing. He had the most interceptions in that period as well from when he played Arsenal. He's got 18 interceptions, which is very impressive as well. He can step in, can read the game pretty well. And, hopefully it goes on from there. And I think it leaves big question marks whether, if Pogba signs the contract, which I don't think he will, does he deserve to start ahead of Fred? Stylistically, does it fit the team to have Pogba ahead of Fred? I don't think so. Even if the next manager comes in the way that we're playing right now, and in the way that you see a lot of the teams playing, you have to win the ball and keep teams in their opposition, in their own half. And I feel like the type of player that Fred is can do that. The issue that you got with Bruno is he's relentless, can work hard. But I think we'll all agree, a lot of the time when you watch United, you almost see Bruno drift into these areas where it's like he leaves plenty of space behind him, or he doesn't understand the structure as well. Whereas I think Fred maintains it much better.
I know, like you say, he has been sort of almost flavour of the month since Ralph Rangnick came in, Fred. A lot of people have been giving him praise. He obviously got that goal in the Crystal Palace game, the first win under Ralph Rangnick with his right foot as well, which I was at that game, surprised a lot of people because, Fred's finishing isn't what he's renowned for, but he got a good goal, scored a good goal from the edge of the box and gave us that all-important first win under Ralph Rangnick. But I just wonder with this, is there a little bit of sort of, because the bar was a little bit lower with Fred, where we're overestimating his importance, where because Bruno and Pogba, we know what they're capable of, we do expect it from them week in, week out. And because Fred has been one of those players who you look at and sometimes he can look a little bit ungainly, he can look like he's positional sense isn't great. There's always been this question mark of where do you play him, where's his best position. Ollie like to use him as deep, like you said, but at times, I remember we saw the Wolves game earlier on the season where he couldn't
do you know what?
He couldn't even get near some of those players.
I thought he was done after that game. I didn't want to see him.
It wasn't a case of he couldn't even tackle him. He couldn't get near him. He couldn't even foul him. And you look at it and you go, this guy just looks awful.
Lost.
But we know that in the past, Fred has put in good performances. That's why he was a regular under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. But I've always had this question mark of, is it the top level? Is it the level we need a midfielder to be at if Manchester United are going to challenge for the honours we want to challenge for? We're not there yet, but for the Premier Leagues, for the Champions Leagues, if we can even get back in it. Is he at that level? Do you think you see enough from him? Because I think you can argue that Bruno and Pogba are at that level, or, some may disagree, but there's an argument to be made. Is Fred there, do you feel?
I think this is where it brings it to another discussion in a way where, there was a debate after Atletico. Man United made signings this summer to win now, and our season's over by now. And I feel football's moved on from having the player that can pull off a pass, just pull off a worldie of a pass, or, get your goals and get your assists. The game's moved on to a level now where you need guys who are going to be able to turn the ball over, win it, and then keep your side in the right areas, in the right positions. It's not just about how do you look as a player in terms of your ability, but it's more as well your positional sense. It's not just what you do on the ball. And I think Fred understands that very well. We have in the past seen, I think, Old Trafford, the game against Barcelona in the Champions League, when we got knocked out. It was the first game, the 1-0. I thought he was our best player on the pitch that night alongside McTominay. We've seen performances again in Paris away. Like, we've seen big Champions League performance Atletico at home. So when you see these things... Just a Paris thing. I just seen a smirk from Jay there, like, he's mentioned Paris again.
Do you know what?
No one understands this.
Don't even take this out because I want.
People need to understand this joke.
Was you at the game in Paris? Did you at the Paris Saint-Germain game when we went?
Right, listen, we've done a podcast after like that Paris game, and I was banging on about how sick it was, and then Jay was just going on a witch hunt online about Abdul. Abdul always speaks about that Paris game. Of course I do.
I don't, right? I wasn't going on a witch hunt online, right? All I ever said to you was, was you at that Paris Saint-Germain game away? You was in Paris, weren't you? And you even played up to it yourself, right? And I'm not going on a witch hunt, right? Because you've had it back at me when I've mentioned about being in Munich or whatever. You've had, you're in Stockholm.
We lost in Munich.
Yeah, but whenever I've mentioned any way that I've done, you
Evra scored. Wow.
Oh, you know what?
Scored a volley.
So I'm not gonna. I'm not digging you out. You've done it yourself there. Yeah, but use it that game in Paris.
Because I was looking over you, I swear, because you love that joke.
Hey,
you're going for me.
Use it the game in Paris, but no. To be fair, Fred had a good game in those games that you mentioned. But I'm playing slightly devil's advocate because I do like Fred. I think he's a good player. But I also look at the game against Paris Saint-Germain at Old Trafford where he's on a yellow. Yes, it's a hard decision. But you don't go to ground in that second for that tackle, giving the referee almost an excuse to send him off. And I think that's my worry with Fred. It's sometimes, has he got the sort of the awareness to be a top level midfielder? We talk about his positional sense sometimes, especially defensively. He's left wanting. And just the decision making at times can be a bit frustrating.
But I think it's a positional thing, isn't it?
Fred has been magnificent every game since he arrived, because he hasn't. There's been question marks about him. I agree if he's in good form. I just wonder, is he really? Is he at that top level? And I know you've got something to say about that in terms, especially with the Atletico Madrid game.
I felt like in the Atletico Madrid game, we've seen him play in the tight spaces very well, where he'd get away from his man. And again, now you mentioned the PSG game. The difference between that PSG game to the one previous to it, where he performed well, was he had the license to almost push higher up aggressively and win the ball. And it's just about using players in the right positions. This is a problem Manchester United have throughout the team. In that Atletico Madrid game, Fred made the most, ball recoveries when he was on the pitch, went off on the 75th minute, which I disagree with that substitution. I thought he was one of Man United's best players, if not the best on the night. When we look at him as a player, he's a player you want in that final third, because in terms of profiles, in terms of names, Liverpool don't exactly. I think Jurgen Klopp's done a very good job, and it's as frustrating as it sounds when I keep referencing them, because he's gone into a side where it's Jordan Henderson. Fabinho was wanted by us apparently, and a couple other teams in Europe, but he's not really that high profile when they've bought him. He wasn't like, oh my God, like this is going to be a game changer. And you look at the rest of that team, Milner was playing in midfield, but it's about you doing the job as a team. And I feel like if the next manager comes in, from what I've seen from Fred, in terms of when we're trying to implement this modern style, this aggressive style of, players winning the ball back and putting in that shift on the pitch and making an influence in a final third, Fred's done that under Ralph, no doubt. And basically, even in those Carrick games, had his influence. And I think Carrick in that Arsenal game gave him the license to push so far up. I remember being in the Arsenal game, you'd see, like, when they had the goal kick, he'd be almost on the edge of Arsenal's box, and United were really pressing them high. He actually wins the ball back in the Villarreal game as well, for when Ronaldo scores that chip. So again, I'm seeing stylistically in terms of the way he plays a fit for a modern team, and if Man United are going down that route, I can see the next manager utilise Fred. And like I said, I'm liking what I'm seeing so far of him, because he's actually showing that he can play in tight spaces, but when it's higher up the pitch, you can take that extra risk of beating a man and then moving it on. And I think he's one of them where when we've got the next manager and we've got better combinations across the pitch, when we've got like from the right to the centre to the left, more triangles, more players playing within close proximity. Right now, it's just like feels like Sancho Ronaldo tapping it to each other. Where's that in the centre? Last season, it was Marcus Bruno. Like the season before, it was like Martial, Marcus. Like there isn't that across the pitch, if you get what I'm saying. And I think you will even see some of these players like Fred maybe even get to a higher level with a bit more experience in the Premier League. And yeah, we'll see what goes with Fred, but I'm impressed with what he's given Man United so far. And I think it's fair to say, for me anyways, that he's been Man United's best midfielder this season. If we're talking about midfielders, I know Bruno's still got his goals and assists, but I feel like Fred, since Ralph has took over and since we've tried to turn things around in the season, I think he's been Man United's best midfielder.
Abdullah thinks that Fred has been Manchester United's best midfielder, certainly since Ralph Rangnick took over. Do you agree? Do you disagree? What do you make of that opinion? Get involved in the comments. Let us know what you think of Fred. Let us know what you think of anything. Abdullah, where can people find you?
Abdul GH_ on Twitter.
Make sure you go and find him. You know where to find me, Jay Motti. This has been a little bit of a scouting report, if you can call it that, on Fred, and a bit of a controversial opinion on whether Fred has been Manchester United's best midfielder this season. Make sure you get involved. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for watching.